really takes the electric universe hand in hand, and it propels it forward.
Someone's have to go in the back.
Oh, yeah, I know you dropped out, but anyway. What I'm going to say is you cannot transmit sound without material.
You can't transmit light without material either, but it still transmits, doesn't it?
Yeah, but light is a material light is material that moves, just like molecules in an ocean stream move, right? But sound is a wave which needs a medium to propagate in.
So is light. Still propagates. There's no medium, so to say. But the medium is absolutely not.
The reason why light exhibits the behavior of wave and particle is because it is a construct that fractally inherits both wave and particle characteristics.
And the particles are just points and vertices among the decoherent and the coherent interference patterns.
Sound is not a particle.
No, sound moves particles, just like your supposed light wave moves photons. No, and yes, there is a sonic particle. They call it photons. And it's under the same principle. There is a sonic particle. They call it phonons. And it's got the same principle as photons. Well, and it's wrong. It's a data point. It's a construct, and a very necessary one, though, because that's where the measurement has taken place. That's where you measured the wave.
Phonons are about as real as gluons are. They're a conceptual makeup to make our model simple, right? What we have is a material universe that produces effects, and our understanding of what is present is what the problem is. Now, there are imaginary effects that we use in description that are not real. And we are claiming that those imaginary descriptions are real, and we have no evidence of them being real. We see a characteristic and an effect that we claim is a real effect, but that doesn't mean there's a real particle that has that effect. And this is the distinction I'm going to stick with. You know, we've got to be able to put our hands on a phonon. We've got to put our hands on a gluon. Because when we do that, we've proved that these things exist. But until we can put our hands on one of these things, we have proved.
Well, but my point. Okay, I'm sorry, I had things happen that caused the call to drop off. But my point is that you're not going to find a physical photon. That is just a model, because you don't need a physical particle in the theory that I have. In the personal theory that I have. But you notice I don't promote that theory. I only say that light is definitely not a particle. Unless you define a particle in some weird mathematical way and not as we all colloquial describe it, as a little ball of something that we don't know what it is, but we all agree, we're going to tacitly agree that there's these little balls flying around. And that's the only definition of a particle that I've ever seen that there is. But when you get down to it, all of them, their masses are measured in electron volts. So anyway, I just skipped middleman. It's an electric circuit. And if it's an electric circuit, then what we're seeing as light is not what we're imagining, but it's a revelation. As the circuit crosses through our reality, it's revealing the light. And it's revealing the light at a rate of induction. And then you don't need then you won't need all of the flim-flammery of, oh, it's a particle, now it's a wave. Oh, no, now it's a particle, now it's a wave again. But it cannot be a particle because it cannot instantly accelerate or decelerate. That is just that's the thermodynamics. There's no mechanism for that acceleration or that deceleration. And without that mechanism, plus the infinite acceleration would require infinite energy.
There is an explanation. It's a question of whether we're going to accept it or not.
No, I have an explanation. I said there's no way that a particle can do that.
I have to go back to empirical physics experiments. We get a hydrogen atom as a neutron in the first place, and we just sit there and watch what happens to the neutron. What we discover is the
we're talking photons.
No, I'm talking photons too, but I'm going to go right back to the physical description of what's going on. Right. What we know in terms of the particles that we claim make up a neutron, we know there's an electron, we know there's a proton. And we know that...
Are you comparing the physical particles with the photon?
What I am saying is what is present in the neutron. Right?
Fine. But does the neutron ever instantly accelerate or instantly decelerate? Does it ever happen?
That's not the issue.
It is an issue. It's an issue of conservation.
It's because of perspective, right? The third element that is present in the neutron is an electron's mass of something, right? Which I think is, we just claim to be, the physicists, the neutron. But however, I have made the suggestion, and experiments are being conducted that prove that a neutrino is in fact a high energy EMR photon. And further, the number of photons that are needed to make a neutron is unknown, because we've got to get neutrons that have neutrinos that have very
first of all, I think most people here, you're going to be barking up the wrong ladder, because most people here are already structured atomic model people. We don't see neutrons. We see positive neutron yin yang.
What I see emitted from atoms in radioactive decay are three types of decay. There's the alpha particle, there is the beta particle, and there is the gamma ray, but there's another particle that is ignored, and that is the neutron.
I thought you didn't want quantum mechanics.
When I split a uranium atom, I get 3 neutrons, and when they are watched and let to go and they fall apart, I get hydrogen atoms and a photon flow.
The neutron is just, it's the emittance of a standing wave that doesn't reflect on anything. That's why it dissipates.
Well, it can't be a standing wave because it interacts with material structures that are standing waves. How is that? Hold up. Standing waves are all the time made of physical things. I mean, jump ropes and wind and water.
The standing wave is the oscillation sum of motion of a given particle where it doesn't move.
It's a waste byproduct. It's too much energy in the system, and this is how the system dissipates.
All motional directions cancel each other, and the thing stands still. That's what a standing wave is.
Really, I think Markland, once again, Markland convection is where a lot of this stuff comes together and where we'll find our answers. I mean, even in orbital dynamics of solar systems and why certain materials are spread out the way they are. And the Sapphire's doing a wonderful job of that with what they're doing. But I wonder if they even realize that they're sealed off chamber, and what they've done, they've created a resonant chamber. There's a lot of resonance happening.
Well, there's always going to be a resonance. Everything is resonating. It's just what is it resonating with?
That's right.
Right.
And I'm curious if that's a big part of their phenomenon and what helps make it work. Like, if that anode was outside of that chamber, would they still see the double layers? Would they still see the transmutations? Or is that inherent to the reverberations and resonance that they're creating themselves by isolating the system?
Well, it's an approximation of the vacuum of space. It's not, of course, the actual vacuum, because there's all the baryons and space dust. But my point is that Robert has not satisfied me here. He's comparing neutrons to talk about photons. Photons have no mass. They instantly accelerate, decelerate. All of these things can be described with a circuit without the flimflammery. And we can easily describe the slowdown as impedance. It's a function of the RLC characteristics as it's going through the different mediums: the glass, the water, the air, the vacuum.
Compressor.
There's not the claim that a photon has no mass is absolutely false, and it's been proved false.
According to where?
Right.
According to where?
The second thing is a photon does not need to be stopped.
Until you slice one open,
photons,
it's zero mass.
Even in the wrong description of the mathematics and the model of the atom, it is claimed that photons are absorbed by the electron. Well, that's a bunch of rubbish in the first place. Where photons are absorbed is in the harmonic construction of what is claimed to be a neutron. And what is occurring in that structure is that the electric and negative particle, the electron, and the electric positive particle, the photon, to join together needs some additional material that balances out the field structure so that the structure becomes stable.
I don't think that you're,
And
with
to
respect,
achieve
I
that
don't
stability,
think this is
you
a
need
comprehensible
tiny
argument.
bits of field structure that will achieve that goal. Right? We
Yeah.
can't
Ramon,
have a wave. We cannot have a wave. We cannot have a wave unless there's a medium in which it can be traveling. And further, a wave will not transform another wave. They pass through each other. They do not interact and change the energy of either wave. If I have two waves going in different directions and they cross each other, one wave doesn't accelerate and the other one slow down. That never happens.
Read any one of your electrical devices. They all have to be capable of taking interference and not interfering with other wireless signals. Waves interfere with themselves all the time. All the time. I can hear my microwave coming through my television sometimes. I mean, that's interference.
They produce a condition that is not part of either wave, but as together that affects the material that those waves interact with, right? But the wave itself, if I just have two waves and I pass them through each other with no material in the road, they will never interact with each other. They will never transfer energy between them.
That's not true.
It doesn't happen.
Read the electrical device
construct.
Hold on, Robert. Let Jason respond. Let Jason respond.
Like there is a multitude of volumes of electrical engineering stuff on frequencies and vibrations, and why certain systems need to be isolated, especially in power transmission, because you know what happens if high voltage lines start resonating. It's not good. It's not good at all. You can blow up the whole system. And these are waves interfering with waves.
Yes, waves do interfere with each other. I'm not sure what Robert's claiming.
What are the components of this system that are going to suffer damage because of this interaction? What's present in the system?
Well, you get overload. You'll build yourself. Have you ever seen the Tacoma Narrows Bridge and how one small swaying of the wind took out the entire bridge? How it just kept amplifying and amplifying. I mean, if you crash waves into each other in exactly the right spot, you amplify them. And this is how we amplify microwave transmission and telecommunications. We send out a couple of waves and we make them interfere with themselves and we amplify the signal.
I'm going to say this because it's clearly not getting through. The wind is the movement of particles that interact with an object, right? It's not a wave, it's a motion of particles. When we're talking about microwaves, right, or waves, we'll forget microwaves for the moment. If we talk about just two waves, they will transmit energy through each other, providing there is a medium. And when there is a medium, at the point of harmonic neutralization or maximization, the material of the medium will produce a behavioral response due to that interaction. Without the medium, you do not get an interaction. So microwaves and